I'm former FBI agent Joe Pistone, the real Donnie Brasco. The Mafia put a contract on my head, but I've got stories to tell.
Today, the story of James Stern, an FBI agent who goes undercover to seize kilos of meth from the Japanese mob. If he's not careful, James could get sliced into sashimi before he knows what hit him. Deep undercover. Growing up in Southern California, James Stern always knew he wanted to be in law enforcement.
I was sending for applications from the FBI when I was 10, 11 years old.
After 3 years in the military, James signs up for FBI training in Quantico. One of his credentials is a blended Japanese and American heritage.
As a Japanese American, I was bilingual.
James Stern is the guy, trained at Quantico, the ultimate FBI agent.
In the 1990s, James is named point man to help stop the Japanese mafia moving into Hawaii.
I was the supervisor of the squad that was targeting Asian organized crime in the Hawaiian Islands, specifically the Yakuza.
The Yakuza is both feared and respected. These tatted up bad boys join for life and put death before dishonor.
I could deal with Japanese police, I could deal with the informants that we had directly, therefore I was selected to do the undercover work.
Underneath the Aloha, 1990s Hawaii is the land of meth heads, and a lot of crime that comes with it.
Hawaii is a tropical paradise, and a lot of people don't realize that the big scourge there is meth.
The FBI brass see a pattern in the soaring crime rates on the islands and start cracking down.
We were able to basically determine that most of those people that we arrested committed a crime because they needed money to buy very expensive crystal methamphetamine.
The Japanese mob are the biggest supplier of crystal meth in Hawaii. And for James to even speak to the ultra-secretive Yakuza, he needs a new undercover identity.
You could not speak English with the Yakuza or the Yakuza associates that we were dealing with. You had to speak Japanese.
Although he speaks fluent Japanese, James decides to play it smart and avoid presenting himself as a Japanese national.
I'm half Japanese, not 100% Japanese. I was somebody who had connections in the underworld, somebody who could facilitate receiving large shipments of ice from the Yakuza.
James needs an alias. Enter Jimmy Sato, a local tourist guide who's keen to deal drugs on the side. Welcome to Operation Tropical Storm.
His cover is a tour guide, a money man, maybe some mob connections, kind of a jack of all trades, a fixer, a go-to guy in the islands.
In order to get to the top, you got to start at the bottom. So we had the opportunity to make a hand-to-hand crystal meth buy.
An informant brokers a drug deal with a low-level Yakuza thug named Komine. He's only a foot soldier, but one wrong move and the case could blow up big time.
There could be international implications in this case. I wanted to make sure I didn't screw the case up.
Komine arrives from Japan with a small quantity of meth, but the FBI believes if James can gain his confidence, bigger deals await.
We knew that he was going to do that first drug deal because we were intercepting his conversations. We were wiretapping his phone and had a camera in his room.
From the moment Komine and his girlfriend walk in, the camera picks up more than just conversations.
We were observing them in their room, and we saw her pull the crystal methamphetamine out of her panties.
James goes to the hotel room for his first face-to-face with the Japanese mafia. The FBI is prepared because there won't be a second chance.
At the meeting, my first meeting with Komine, I was wired, and we had a surveillance team watching me to make sure that nothing happened to me.
This is a tough one for James. I mean, he's going after the Yakuza. If he plays this wrong, he could end up dead.
According to his passport, Komine is a tour guide, so he's not armed to the teeth. One problem eliminated.
He did clear U.S. Customs coming into Honolulu, so I was reasonably certain he didn't have a weapon.
Luckily, the agent can tell Komine doesn't suspect a thing.
Komine was the typical Yakuza-looking guy, all tatted up everywhere. He was a loudmouth who was trying to show off to me more than I was trying to convince him that I was legitimate.
The deal goes down, and the FBI captures it all on tape.
We did a transaction where I gave him tens of thousands of dollars, and he provided us with ounces of crystal meth. And we knew that we had hooked the fish by this transaction.
Khamenei is in the mood to celebrate, and it's on his dime, so who can say no?
He had the cash, we had the ice. So we decided to go to dinner. I think the fact that he had tens of thousands of dollars probably contributed to his wanting to party mood.
Khamenei wants to keep the party going, but James has his mind on bigger fish, a multi-kilo deal.
A lot is riding on this. I mean, he's got a tiger by the tail.
It won't be dull. Dinner at a Japanese steakhouse with the Yakuza, flying knives and hot sake. James and Khamenei sit down to eat, and it quickly turns into a sideshow.
Khamenei was drinking very heavily, and he had consumed so much alcohol that he decided to take his shirt off in the restaurant and show everybody his tattoos.
Khamenei loudly brags about his criminal cred and draws the attention of the entire restaurant. It's not the way James wants it to go down.
It was very, very crazy, and I'm typically a pretty conservative guy.
This loose cannon is getting out of hand, and the agent's cover is in danger of being blown.
I was hoping that because I also lived in Honolulu, that nobody would say, why is that guy with that guy?
Hawaii is a small place. Everybody knows everybody, including James. He could be made.
There's no telling what may happen by the time the check comes. James sits back and hopes it doesn't go off the rails.
There could have been other Yakuza in the restaurant. This whole thing could have been a test of James, seeing how he would respond under pressure.
James rolls the dice and plays it tough. He lets Khamenei know he won't take his crap.
You don't want to use proper Japanese to a Yakuza. You want to use kind of street Japanese. When you say shizukan, that means like just chill a little bit, just bring it down. I told him he could blow it by acting like a dumbass in a public place.
The situation is getting weirder by the minute. If this is a test, things are about to come to a head real fast.
He was trying to get me to take my shirt off in the restaurant. Well, I was recording the conversation, and the recorder was on my chest. He could have blown my cover because he was so insistent.
If the Yakuza discovers he's FBI, he's done.
James keeps his eyes on the knives that Khamenei has grabbed. They could just as well be grenades.
There are a lot of knives in this restaurant. And of course, the Yakuza are very good with knives. How much of this is him really being drunk, and how much of this is really a setup that could put him in danger?
Coming up, James goes under the knife.
If Khamenei didn't like the tune I was singing, it would have been my final performance.
Operation Tropical Storm is targeting the feared Japanese crime family, the Yakuza. They begin with a low-level operative named Khamenei to build their case. FBI agent James Stern is on the dinner from hell with Khamenei, who's slamming sake and going off the rails. If someone calls the cops, Operation Tropical Storm may be over before it begins.
It is a lot of pressure on James. This is not only his first undercover operation, not only is he up against the Yakuza, but there is a lot of money, assets, resources from the FBI involved.
A bad situation may get more volatile before they reach the main course.
I talked them off, and I talked them into eating, not taking your clothes off.
The way James is able to avoid having to take off his own shirt is he convinces Khamenei to go to a strip club after the dinner.
So we went to a strip club, real popular strip club in Honolulu, and of course he brought the cash that I'd given him with him, tens of thousands of dollars.
James knows the taxpayer's hard-earned dollar is about to end up in a G-string. He wants the operation to continue, so he has no choice but to sit back and enjoy the show.
He was pulling out $100 bills, and it attracted all the girls who were dancing to come right in front of him.
James has to sit there and watch the surreal scene as government money, the money he gave him for the drug deal, is being thrown at naked women.
I was actually enjoying the recipients of his $100 bill because I was sitting next to him.
At the end of the longest night of his life, James knows Operation Tropical Storm still has a pulse. The stage is set for future meetings with Khamenei.
Some wacky occurrences during the dinner, but we got through it okay. He trusted me. I could tell by how he opened up to me. I went home thinking this was a good day.
Later that night, the FBI gets a surprise when they screen the surveillance video of Khamenei's room.
Apparently, Khamenei didn't have enough entertainment because he then called for a couple of girls to come up to his room to party and continue on with his evening. Although I was done, I went home.
More undercover nights with Khamenei follow. When James comes home with booze on his breath and perfume on his clothes, the party is over for good.
When you're in an undercover role, you are going to spend a lot of time away from your home and your loved ones, and they'll want to know what you're doing.
His girlfriend obviously wants to know how things are going at work, and he can't tell her. This is an undercover operation.
I couldn't tell her what I was doing, so she immediately suspected that I'm out, screwing around on her, which I wasn't.
As he watches his girlfriend walk out on him, James learns the personal price of working undercover.
It ultimately ended the relationship because she just didn't want a part of a person that was involved in that type of stuff anymore.
James meets Khamenei a few more times on the multi-kilo deal, but it's clear that this low-level thug doesn't pull the strings on the big scores.
We wanted to do 20 kilos of crystal meth, which is that's millions of dollars. And Khamenei was not in a position to negotiate only the boss. So we were able to push Khamenei so that he would push his boss to come directly to Honolulu.
Suddenly, Operation Tropical Storm gets fast-tracked.
The goal is always to go after the top guy. Khamenei was a low guy, and we wanted this guy named Yoshimura. We heard him talk to Yoshimura from the hotel room in a way that he was talking to a superior.
Yoshimura is the high-level target, but James continues to massage Khamenei and not let on his phone is tapped.
Yoshimura was obviously a career criminal who was respected by his organization and their members, and his command presence was very obvious from the first time we heard him on the phone.
James's plan to lure the big fish seems to be working.
Yoshimura obviously didn't trust his underling to do a multi-kilo million-dollar deal. So Khamenei had convinced Yoshimura that this guy, Jimmy Sato, was in a position to do a multi-kilo million-dollar deal.
This isn't Yoshimura's first rodeo. He insists they do a 2-kilo deal as a warm-up before he'll deliver the bigger package. The good news? Yoshimura is booked on a flight to Honolulu.
You always want to get to the top, and now that's about to happen. The ante is up.
But has James gotten in too deep? By just being in the same room with the Yakuza shark, he may have signed his own death warrant.
It's safe to say that a top guy in the Yakuza would have been involved in all types of violent crimes, including possibly murder.
Coming up, if Operation Tropical Storm goes down the drain, James's career may follow.
Yoshimura was no dummy.
FBI undercover agent James Stern works his way up the chain of command in the Yakuza crime organization. He sets up a meeting in Honolulu for 2 kilos of meth with the source that's supplying the entire island.
We knew it would likely be with him when he came into Honolulu.
All eyes are on Yoshimura at the Tokyo and Honolulu airports, and he's not traveling alone.
Yoshimura ultimately had a young girl who was the courier, and the crystal meth was inside of a bag inside of Japanese soup to conceal the scent from drug dogs, etc.
You would think that a high-level drug dealer would have some sort of high-tech way of smuggling in drugs. And so it's really very brilliant that he's able to sneak this stuff in this miso soup.
The FBI isn't thrilled about allowing the kilos of meth into the country. If the Yakuza get spooked, they and the meth are gone.
There was enormous pressure.
But there's a snag. The FBI doesn't want to get stuck with the tab.
The FBI can't just cough up $250,000. So this is a complication.
We weren't ever going to allow that level of money to what we call walk.
James knows it will be impossible to get the drugs if he can't pony up the cash. Then he gets a call. Yoshimura is ready to play ball.
Yoshimura checked into the hotel, and he wanted to negotiate the 20-kilo deal and to talk about the logistics of that, the price, the shipping, the mode of transportation.
James arrives at Yoshimura's hotel unarmed, but tailed by an FBI backup team.
The FBI has got the eyes, they got the ears.
At the hotel, Yoshimura is flanked by two heavies packing heat. And Yoshimura's no lightweight himself.
Yoshimura has a very gruff and curt way of speaking. You can tell that he's the guy in charge, and Komine was acting like a underling from the entire time that Yoshimura arrived.
James wants Yoshimura to say something incriminating, and Yoshimura is playing with him. He can't get that incriminating information.
James negotiates in Japanese, while the two goons burn a hole in his head with their eyes.
Even after his arrival, he was still very suspect on who Jimmy Sato and others were. He obviously didn't trust Komine.
Yoshimura did not get as high as he did by being careless, by being stupid. This is not his first rodeo.
But just as James feared, Yoshimura says sayonara to the 2-kilo deal when he discovers that there's no cash on the table.
Yoshimura wants to see the money. Show me the money. Show me the $250,000. Well, James doesn't have it.
James leaves Yoshimura's hotel empty-handed. It's back to the drawing board to figure out his next move.
This is a case that James has been working on for months. He has risked his life. A lot is riding on this. He doesn't want this operation to fall apart.
They may already be dead in the water.
The FBI is monitoring Yoshimura's phone in the hotel, and they know that he's getting cold feet.
He's leery of me to the extent that he's discussing flushing the 2 kilos of crystal meth down the toilet.
The whole operation could fall apart. So James has to figure out a way to turn this around.
Operation Tropical Storm is now on the rocks and about to go belly up.
It's do or die time in the operation. James has got to think fast. He calls Yoshimura, rolls the dice, and he says, let's set up another meeting, and Yoshimura agrees.
It's a gamble because you could lose the drugs, you could lose the subjects, the whole thing could go to.
He can make this happen. Things just have to work out.
Coming up, James gets a second chance. When the room heats up, he plays it cool.
We were wanting at that point just to seize the drugs and arrest him.
Operation Tropical Storm is under weather advisory. Undercover agent James Stern is trying to do a 20-kilo meth deal without the $250,000 promised to a high-level gangster. Good luck. And the Yakuza boss thinks the whole deal stinks.
And he's prepared to dump the crystal meth right down the toilet.
The FBI's crosshairs cover James when he returns to Yoshimura's hotel room, again unarmed.
The meeting begins like the last one. And there's this dance, and Yoshimura is playing with him, and he's talking in code.
But James goes for the gold and gets Yoshimura to cop to the 20-kilo deal.
James is able to twist it. He's able to pivot Yoshimura, and he's able to get him to say the things he needs to say. He gets the incriminating information.
James walks out knowing he's got his man without fronting a dime of cash.
It felt like all the work we had done up to that point had paid off because I knew that we had the confidence of a criminal who was going to do a drug transaction.
James returns to the FBI surveillance room to review the evidence with his team.
We had the crystal meth from Khomeini's first visit. We had a lot of conversations that were intercepted. We had conversations about a 20-kilo deal, and we had 2 kilos in a hotel room in Honolulu. We didn't want to lose that.
It's go time.
We knew it was time to take down the operation.
The FBI swoops in, they take down Yoshimura, they take down Khomeini, and they get 2 kilos.
They were angry, pissed, and shocked when they were arrested.
James's first undercover mission, Operation Tropical Storm, is over. And a home run.
Both Yoshimura and Khomeini go down. They both go to prison.
They faced drug trafficking charges, and they went to jail for an extended period of time. Yoshimura essentially came to the United States and didn't leave for 8 or 9 years.
Even with one of their capos in a U.S. jail, the Yakuza don't miss a beat. When James visits their Tokyo offices to question them, the bosses are unfazed.
I remember talking to the underboss. He goes, "Look, I apologize for the inconvenience that the Yakuza has put on the FBI in Honolulu." I thought, it's a nice apology.
Even in jail, Yoshimura is in good graces with the Yakuza, but Khomeini faces retribution for setting up a boss, an unforgivable sin.
Khomeini put himself in that position, and it's on him, not me. He was a criminal, and it was professional. It was never personal.
James was tough on crime and sent a powerful international message. For his first undercover operation, he drove it home.
I think Tropical Storm showed that the Japanese Yakuza could not bring crystal methamphetamine into the United States. We did match wits with people who are very good at crime, and we beat them.
Televisa presents